There we go. Meeting is now live streaming on Facebook. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kylee Leota, and I am up in Brisbane, Australia, which is obviously a little bit warmer than where Elizabeth is down in Melbourne. So good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our second day of our Seed to Sunflower Challenge. Morning, Elizabeth.
Hi, Kylie. How are you this morning? You're looking very bright and chirpy.
Much warmer than you, apparently.
Yes, it's 8 degrees Celsius here, so it's a bit
Oh my
chilly.
goodness. Yeah, I don't know what it is up here, but it's definitely a lot warmer than that. So I'm really excited and I'm really pumped to be back for our second day of our Seed to Sunflower Challenge. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited to be here again, and we've solved some of our technical issues that we had yesterday, so that's a real bonus.
Well, flawed imperfection is something that we all need to overcome and just keep moving through and overcoming our fears, which we did in spades yesterday. So we were like a life version of how to overcome your fears, which is exactly what we were talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I know that you weren't really keen on doing Facebook Lives, and now you've had to do a big, long one all by yourself. So,
yeah. So just before we jumped on air, I was just sharing with Elizabeth. So my background, for those of you that may not have been here yesterday, is I've been in education for over 20 years. So I'm definitely used to speaking in front of people, getting up on stages and speaking to large events. I've done within school. I've also done corporate kind of work as well. So the speaking to large audiences in and of itself is fine. But getting on a live feed when there's just me has always been one of those incredible fears that's not necessarily rational, but it's real. So do you know what was really, really powerful? The activity that we did yesterday around what's in your control and what's out of your control was actually one of those things that actually helped me overcome that fear. So when everything went a bit pear-shaped yesterday and I was sitting here solo for a little bit of time, I went back to what was in my control, and the technology was actually out of my control. But what was in my control was the fact that I knew the content that we were talking about. I'm really, really passionate about it, and I love to share and support other people. So by going through and overcoming and looking what was in my control, that actually helped me overcome my fear and move through. And someone so lovely told me I moved through with grace yesterday, which is really great, because probably under the water I was that little duck with my little feet just paddling away. But I'm glad that I presented really with a lot of grace. So thank you so much for everyone's support and kindness yesterday as we navigated that hitch. And I think the only way, there's a really old song from the 80s or early 90s, and it says the only way is up. So from a technology perspective, I think we can rock it today, because everything, our greatest fears all came through yesterday. So we're ready to rock and roll today and get on with things.
It's like when you get a new car and you're pranging on the first date, and it's like, well, it can't get any worse than that.
Yep, that first ding. Yes, I can well relate. So that actually leads us, really nice segue, and we didn't even plan that, into our one of our quotes for today. And it's a Maya Angelou quote, and I just love and adore her. And her quote is, "I did then what I knew how to do. Now that I know better, I do better." So, and yesterday was that example for us. So now we know some different ways to do better, that we're going to do that today.
Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So what I wanted to do, and I'm still trying to work out the tech. So, well, we overcame some of our tech issues, some of them not so much. So I'm still trying to figure out how we jump on this. Oh, there we go. So what I really wanted to do was see who was here today. And also I wanted to check in, what was your highlight from yesterday, apart from us overcoming our fears, and what brought you back here today? So we would love you to share that with us as we go live and on the screen. So I've got my chat comments up there. Morning, ladies from EH, and morning from Pep. Fantastic to have you here. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. So what was a really great insight that you had from yesterday? Did you have any aha moments? Did you go away and go, oh, actually, yep, that was something that I could do and I could implement from today? So hopefully we'd like you to jump on and share that with us. Elizabeth.
Yeah, aha moments from yesterday. Oh, there were so many. Actually, one thing I did want to mention that's not really related to the aha moments is that we mentioned that we're creating, we've created posters which are just up on the wall behind you, Kylie.
Yep.
So we are still just setting that up in the back end of the Teachable platform. so that people can download those. So we'll be speaking to our techie team again today, and hopefully they'll be up by this afternoon so that you can go in and have a look at those and see if there's something, just a resource to support the learning that we're doing here in the Seed to Sunflower course. You don't need them, but they might be a nice addition, just a reminder of what you've been learning about and thinking about over the these 3 days.
So
fantastic. And we'll actually I'll be sending out an email to the people who've enrolled in the course later today with the video. I've learned how to do that now. Woohoo. And so I can if they're ready, I'll put the link to that as well.
Yes, fantastic. So EH shared with us, thank you so much. And she talked about that gratitude from the first thing in the morning was I'm still in bed. So that was one of the things that we talked about yesterday, was when we were focusing on that positive and that RAS, that reticular activating system, where if we start the day with the positive intent, then our thoughts tend to filter out all the other stuff and actually look for other things to reinforce that. So that's fantastic. Emma said, making a small goal I feel I can achieve. So that's fantastic as well. And that's another really amazing thing. We talk about, we write this big to-do list all the time, and then we get a sense of feeling deflated because we never get to that to-do list. So I love the concept of just writing one thing that you're going to do today, and it's succeeding in that and achieving it. And it creates a snowball effect, because then you're more excited about trying something else because you've already had that win for the day and that success. So everything else is a bonus. Fantastic. Selena said, I went away yesterday thinking I can do this, and I went away thinking about the useful ways I can tweak my thinking. That's fantastic, Selena. Thank you so much for sharing.
Just on that topic of you were saying about writing a goal that you can achieve straight away. There's another way of, like, instead of maybe creating a to-do list, create a I've achieved list. And so that way you're actually already kind of framing it in the positive. So that's something that, like, I studied applied positive psychology, and a lot of that is just around reframing your thinking. And so rather than thinking about what all the stuff you have to do, why not just stop for a moment and just reflect on what you've already achieved? Even today, I mean, we're up, we're at them, we're all here engaging at this hour of the morning. People I know have really busy days ahead of them, and yet they've chosen to make this a priority. So really feel honoured by that, and want to acknowledge that. But also just to say, hey, you've already got this far. So, it's only the beginning of the day, and you've already achieved some personal growth and some learning. And that's a really valuable start to the day.
Yeah. When I find myself starting to get caught up in some of that negative thinking, so when that positive flips over into that negative, that's actually the language I use. What could be the reframe? And I was having a wonderful talk to my mum only last week, and she was feeling pretty overwhelmed by the current situation that we're in COVID. They're 70, and the week before they were everything went into lockdown, they were supposed to set off on their around Australia travel, so which was pretty overwhelming and pretty disappointing, as you can imagine. So mum had been sitting there and she was talking about the fear of staying home for fear of getting sick and being worried about that. And I just said to mum, but what could be the reframe? And the reframe for her would have been around, I'm staying home to make sure that I stay healthy. So the minute this lockdown is over, we can shoot off and start on our travel. And it doesn't change necessarily the action. You're still at home, but it changes the way that your brain processes that, and that you're getting more of that positive kind of thinking kicking along.
Absolutely. And just also that you're keeping the rest of the community safe and healthy too. So you're actually, it's an altruistic act to do that.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that comes with powerful, the powerful thoughts that we're giving is it sometimes we need to ask ourselves really powerful questions. And they're questions that maybe we kind of gloss over on a day-to-day, or we don't necessarily take the time to actually sit and ground ourselves in what's happening now and what we are, what we can focus on. And that goes back to what's within our control and what's not within our control. So I know, Elizabeth, you've got a really fantastic activity around powerful questions. So I thought I'd hand that over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I just wanted to say I've got some people here commenting as well. So Selena's saying that she, Pippi saying that she loves the Control Your Controllables activity, and also Jenny's joined us. So hi, Jenny. Fantastic. From New Zealand. Nice to see you as well. So this is the worksheet that you'll need for this section. So if you could grab that. If you haven't got that already, it's up on the Teachable platform. You can download that PDF from the Extraordinary Educators in the Seed to Sunflower course. So I did post up the link for that yesterday, but I'm afraid that I can't breathe, talk, and post the link. It's just too much for me. So you have to.
Well, multitasking. So sometimes we actually have to slow down and just do one thing at a time, don't we?
That's right. Do it well. All right. So today's I guess the topic for this session, or the title for this session, is moving towards the sun. And so one of the things that we want to think about as we start that transition, getting out of our trenches and into moving up towards the sun, following on along with that analogy of the seed to sunflower growth, is to look at these powerful questions. So there are 7 questions here. What am I grateful for? Who am I connecting and checking in with? So like, what's your support team? What attitude am I bringing to motivate and inspire me? And I think that's what we were talking about to some extent with the reframing. What am I happy about? How am I going to move my body? So that's a really important one. And I don't know if you guys have noticed that lately I've been doing my Facebook Lives on the move. And actually, it's funny, the motivation, I don't have so much trouble being motivated to do the live, but I have trouble convincing myself to go out when it's cold. And so, but actually knowing that I'm going to do the live while I'm out has been really motivating for me. So that's, so the moving the body has kind of come along with that. The next one is, what beauty do I see and appreciate in the world around me? And then what expectations of usual am I letting go of as I adapt to unusual? Okay, so what I would like you to do, we've got those questions there on the worksheet. Which question resonates with you in your current situation? So just have a think about, maybe there's one of those that really resonates. Like, you know, I was saying about moving my body while I'm doing the lives has worked out really well for me. And so for me, that's the question that really resonated for me. But what is it for you? Which question is really a powerful one for you? And then can you ask yourself that question?
Yeah. And I think, Elizabeth, so many powerful questions, and there's so many that resonate with me, but I really love the strategy and the action that you're taking by pairing something that you're not so keen on with something that you are really keen on. And I think that's a really powerful motivator if we can pair some of those things up. So for me, I'm exactly the same. I quite like walking. I just don't do it. But when I pair it up with going with somebody that I really like and care about, and that's actually a really powerful motivator for me. Walking into the gym at 4:30 in the morning when it is quite cold is very difficult. But the motivator for me is around, I know this would surprise everybody, that I'm an extrovert. So getting to be around other people and share that with other people and be inspired by other people is something that pairs the motivator for me to make it really powerful. And that's how I actually get it into action. So they're super powerful questions. One of the things that I really resonate with, because I think in this current climate, it's really easy to fall away from, is who am I connecting and checking in with? And even as an extrovert who loves talking to people and who loves going out and getting my social on, I've even noticed that I'm starting to step away from that. And so that's something that I've actually made a conscious choice to start reconnecting with people that I choose to really get me back through the day, because that's actually what gives me energy. And I was wondering why I was feeling a bit bleh and a bit overwhelmed and a bit yuck. And it's because, really flat. And that's because I get my energy from being around people. So obviously this whole situation's really not working for me. So, but I go back to what's within my control. It's actually within my control to go reach out and touch base with people. So that's what I started actively doing. And I just had to remind myself that I actually am in control of that, not the world.
So we've got some comments here coming in. Good morning, Kate. Nice to see you here.
Yeah, good morning.
And Evangelia saying, move my body for me too. So does anyone else have any comments about that? So if you're watching this morning, what else is it that motivates you or that energizes you? And what is it that you're grateful for right now? So just give you a second to give us some responses to that. And maybe while we're waiting for some more people to respond, can you tell us where you're from?
Yeah, that would be really great. The other thing I'm grateful for is it's actually the fact that it's warmer here in Brisbane than it is where you are. So as I look at you, I'm like, oh, geez, even though it's a little bit fresh, it's definitely a beautiful day outside today.
It's not even light here, so I can't even tell if it's going to be a beautiful day.
It is. It's
stunning.
Not raining. And where my office is, I'm actually overlooking an oval with all these beautiful trees, and the sunlight's just shining in. It's a really beautiful view. And if I was as tech savvy as I'd like to be, I could actually flip that around and show you. But
we're not
clearly,
don't touch it.
We're not tempting the technology gods today, as we talked about. Tash, Pippi has said that she resonates with the question about connecting and checking in too. So that's a really, really powerful one. And I loved, I saw her on her live yesterday, and that was part of what she was doing, was around checking in with others. So it was fantastic. Deb's on the beach walk while she tunes in, completely jealous and envious, because the beach is my absolute happy place. So that's really exciting. Thank you very much, Deb, for making us share, and a little bit envious.
Tell us where you
are. Grateful for having a job with a chronic. Fantastic, Emma. Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. So I also struggle with some stuff that make me really susceptible in school. So I have had to put some things around that. So again, being able to live the life that you want rather than the one that you feel confined to is really powerful. Selena said checking in and connecting. I always feel better when I can touch base with people. It grounds me. I would agree with that for me as well.
Thanks, Lynn.
Have you got what would be your second most powerful question, Elizabeth?
I think the connecting and checking in. I've really have struggled with this whole. I am definitely an extrovert, and so I'm in my little studio in the backyard normally anyway, working. Mm-hmm. But I go into the house and say, "What's happening?" And my whole family just laughs at me, like they're like, "What do you mean? What's happening? There's nothing happening." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I need something to be happening." So actually, the other benefit to me of going and doing my lives outside is that I meet my neighbours occasionally, or just sort of see go around the neighbourhood. And also I'm finding that because it's a bit more interesting to watch, more people are watching me, so then I can kind of say, "Oh, hi, thanks for watching." So I just love that.
One thing leads to the other, right?
Yeah,
so you taking that time to connect is actually helping you connect more with other people.
And for me, that's really a really crucial thing. That human connection, I'm definitely wired for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gotta love Brene Brown. That's and I think that's very, very true. And even if you are an introvert and need some of that time out, I do think we're still wired for connection, and that's an important part of what we do. Some people have said Sydney, Australia. Pip's in Tokoroa, New Zealand. Kia ora, Pip. Old Bar, Mid-North Coast, New South Wales from Deb. Brisbane from Selena. And Sydney, Australia. So beautiful. So we've got a really big cross mix, and I'm probably sure maybe those folks that are joining us from New Zealand might be wearing a few more layers than even you are. I don't know. It might be a little bit
like
the same. All right. So the next part of that was what only was powerful, but then you had another second step to that powerful question, Elizabeth, in terms of how are you going to do this? So
So just take a couple of minutes now, if you've got the worksheet there, to just write down. Oh, we've lost your sound, Kylie.
Oh, really?
Oh, no, you're back again. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Oh, tech gods. Come on.
It's all good. Sorry. So yeah, just based on these questions, how are you taking back control of your current situation? And I just want to give you a couple of minutes to write down and create the action steps of what you're going to do. So find your powerful question that really resonates with you, and then write down the action steps of what it is that you'll do, say in the next, even in the next 8 hours, that will sort of help you towards that goal, or that to kind of I guess take you towards answering that powerful question.
I think an example of that is, what beauty do I see and appreciate in the world around me? Are you actually taking the time to slow down? Are you actually pausing for a minute and actually finding the beauty in every day? One of my beautiful friends, I've noticed on her Instagram page, she's just taking a photo every day and putting it up of something that she finds beautiful in the world. And it takes 2 seconds. It doesn't take a lot of time, but she's sharing the joy by finding the beauty in every single day. So what are those kind of things that you're going to do? If what am I grateful for is really important to you, how are you finding the gratitude in every day? And what are you doing to acknowledge and that within yourself? And
nice one. I was listening to the radio the other day, and there's a project, a photography project called the Front Veranda, or it might be the Front Porch, the front. No, it's the Front Steps. The Front Steps project, where people arrange with people in their neighborhood to go and photograph a family like on their front steps. And some of them just come out in, with their cup of tea and their pajamas, but some people are getting dressed up for these like portrait shots really of the family. But it's all done from like the photographers at the front gate, and the families like on the steps of their house or their apartment block or wherever. And the idea is that there's still this human connection, and we still get to kind of get that little window into someone else's world, but we're also being safe. And I just thought, what a lovely project. So all these photographers who normally would be doing weddings and, whatever, are all out of business, but they're still managing to create, I guess, some meaningful and powerful work for themselves by doing this project. So I just thought it was a really lovely idea. And when you said about taking a photograph, it just reminded me of it.
Yeah. And I think, look, there's been lots of not so great things happen as a result of the experience that we're going through at the moment, but there's also been some really positives. And I think what it has done is really asked us to be a little bit more conscious and mindful. We go through life so fast paced, and so much of our stuff that we do on an unconscious level. So we just go in and act and do, and we don't even think about it. So I do know that that's certainly something that's been really powerful for me during this whole experience is the slowing down has actually made me be really conscious about the actions I'm taking, the thoughts that I'm thinking, and enabling me to do that reframe and choose again if I find myself not going in the way that I would like to live my life. Deb has said, after a near-death experience, I always find the beauty in every day. And often it takes something really big for us to actually take to take stock of those powerful questions, right? So we're hoping that you don't need to have something quite as serious as what Deb had. And we're so glad that you're okay, Deb, and here with us. But we want you to be able to take stock of that now and the powerful questions in every day, and take that opportunity to move yourself forward.
So how are we going, everyone, with creating our action steps? So thinking about your powerful questions. We've got, what am I grateful for? What attitude am I bringing to motivate and inspire me? What beauty do I see? What am I happy about? What expectations of usual am I letting go of as I adapt? Who am I connecting and checking in with? And how am I going to move my body? What are the action steps that you're going to take over the next 8 hours or over the next day that will help you to answer that question for yourself? So if you could just share that with us in the chat, that'd be awesome.
So for you, what's going to be your one question? So you already do the move your body and one. So what's going to be the one that you're going to action in the next day?
Yeah, I think the attitude that I'm bringing to motivate and inspire me. So as everyone knows from yesterday, we had some technical challenges, and I'm still on this learning curve of like navigating some of the back end of this project. And so I think just knowing that for me, there's an end goal, which is like to create this space for people to have this conversation. Even though that the technical side of things really, I find, de-energizes me, there's this underlying motivation to do it because there's a higher goal, in a sense, so that we get to create this community of people who are working on themselves and wanting to be their best self and wanting to flourish and prosper and thrive. and to be able to create that space, even though it's like almost the antithesis of that space, to be sitting at the desk doing it, that's what motivates me to do it. So did I answer the question? I feel like
I think I think it's around the fact that sometimes we're motivated by the end goal, but the little activities that we've got to do to get to that end goal don't always motivate us and inspire us.
Yeah.
But your attitude is, I can see that by doing this, it's going to get me where I want to do. So that positive attitude that you're bringing to, even though this might not be my favorite or preferred activity, you can still bring yourself to do it, and you can still bring yourself with that positive frame, because it's going to get you to where you actually want to be. And I think that's really powerful. You know, it's like going to the gym and you do weights, and after one day you don't have your guns, that you sit there and go, well, you know, what happens? So it's accumulation over time that's going to get you to that end goal that you want to do. Is that Evangelia has said about joining the boot camp also dominates my attitude because I'm feeling better by moving. Absolutely. The connection to the physical, to the mind, has been so well documented, and it's so powerful, and it's so little. Like, you know, sometimes we forget it's the little things that actually have big outcomes, right? And another one of my favorite quote is, ordinary things done consistently create extraordinary. And I think by getting yourself up and moving yourself every day consistently, that helps you get to that extraordinary. So that's really powerful.
And Evangelia, thank you for that comment about doing a Zoom boot camp, because I think it's taken us a little while to shift to that space where especially because we're wired for connection, and as Kylee was saying before, going to the gym is kind of a way of having those connections with other people. And so finding a way to still motivate yourself to do that physical activity when you don't get the benefit necessarily of that direct connection. I mean, I stayed with my gym, but they only do a live. Oh, they do a live session throughout the day, but I usually just use the recording from 5 a.m. And then I could do it whenever I want. But yeah, I'm missing that human connection with them. So even when I watch the recording and they're talking to somebody else who's on the live with them, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to see Elle again. You know, my trainer, Christy, is so awesome. And it just kind of gives me a little boost. So there is definitely something there about working out what it is that you need to make life, you know, sort of functionable, I guess, for you.
Sure.
Is that a word? I feel like I made that one up.
No. And Selena has written, in terms of gratitude, I'm grateful for the situation at the moment has given me more opportunity to spend time with my children. Excuse me. I'm planning to continue to spend quality time with my children, and I'm going to find the time today to take time out to spend with them without being distracted by other things that are happening. Nice. And I think that's really, really powerful, because that is a conscious act to do that, to put down the phone, to make the time with your children. For me, mine's what's expectations of usual am I letting go of as I adapt to unusual. And so yesterday was a public holiday up here in Queensland. I know it wasn't for you guys down in Melbourne, but it was up here. So I didn't have the hurry and scurry of homeschooling to worry about, which is what I have to do when I get off this call today. So my version of normal and usual for my children is to send them off to school and have a little bit of peace, which is clearly not happening at the moment. So I've had to let go of that version of what usual looks like and make it work for what it look, you know, make it work for us and our family. And I think that looks different for everybody.
Yeah, Kylee, I've just realized that I've got us on speaker view instead of gallery view. So I'm actually going to click it over, okay? Just so you know, sure. Don't be shocked.
Okay, because I'm in gallery view.
Oh, are you? Okay.
So I don't know what I'm going.
Well, I don't know either. Anyway.
It's all the learnings. It's all the learnings, right? And we're having them in spades in this challenge.
See how that goes. All right.
Fantastic. So
thanks to everyone who's responded to that. That's really inspiring to see all the things that you're doing.
Yeah. And this session's pretty jam-packed because, like Elizabeth said at the beginning of this, when we're talking about moving towards the sun, so we think of the seed and it's in the ground. And yesterday we talked about all the fertilizer that's been dumped on us. And what we're talking about today is really that seed breaking through the soil. And what it always is looking for is where the sun is at to sort of guide it into growing and becoming something so magical and beautiful. So today has been, and we've got another activity coming up, because really what we want to do is put all those things that are placed, the water, the sun, all of that kind of stuff that are going to help you grow and meet your full potential in becoming that gigantic sunflower that we aspire to be in this challenge. So the next activity that we want to do is we want to talk about that futuristic stuff. We've been talking about the things that you need to ground yourself in the now. And then we want to start talking about, okay, now that you're grounded in the now, what does that look like in terms of guiding where you want to go in the future? So the third downloadable that you would have got is a little sheet called My Journey.
Yep.
And I have to say, a couple of years ago, when I was feeling probably a little bit like you guys were in terms of that feeling stuck and not being able to move forward, and everything was quite overwhelming in this world, this was the most powerful activity that I did that started shifting me and helping me get into the right direction, so that I could actually get the clarity to move forward and start setting those plans and getting those actions in place. So I'm hoping that it's as powerful for you as it was for me when I did it. Did you have anything you wanted to add in before we kick off?
Well, I was just going to say, given that Deb's walking along the beach, how about I read out the sort of the categories?
Sure.
So we've got a few, I guess, facets of life or areas of life that we're looking at on one axis, and then the columns are, where am I now, where am I going, and how do I get there? So we've got personal development and growth, family relationships, finances and money, health, well-being and recreation, career and business, citizenship and community, and spiritual.
Yeah. And I think for me, one of the things that was really powerful was, often we get caught up in one area or one or two areas, and we forget about the rest. So it helped me actually break down. So for me, personal development and growth was that area that was purely about me and what I needed for me. And as a mum, that's actually often a really, really hard activity to do. And as a employee, it's actually often a really, really hard to do, because you've obviously got other things that you prioritize over yourself. So where am I now? Where was I at? And then where do I actually want to go? And then the third part of that is what we've been keep talking about, is what are the action steps you take to get there. Family and relationships. So we're talking about, I have multiple different hats that I wear. I'm a mum, so, if you're a wife, if you're an auntie, all of those kind of things that are important to you, what roles do you take on, and where are you sitting in currently? What does that look like for you? If you're unhappy, if you're happy, if you are wanting to get more fulfilled and like Selena was talking about, making a conscious effort to take that time with your children. So where are you going? What do you want to do in terms of your family and your relationship space? What do you want that to look like? For me, it is around connection with my children and empowering them to be the best versions of themselves. So what actions am I going to take to help that come into fruition?
And you might want to ask yourself a bit of a scaling question. So say, so often when I'm working with a get out of teaching client, I'll ask them, like, what on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you like to be? And where are you now?
Yeah.
And then, so say, for instance, for fitness, because I think, I don't know about you, but being in isolation has definitely reduced my getting out and about and just doing stuff. Just I had to drive yesterday. I was so excited. Even just getting in and out of the car, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's more exercise than I've done for the whole day. And so if you say to yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, where am I now? So say I was at a 6, and where would I like to be? I'd like to be at a 9. Well, okay, I'm not going to go straight from 6 to 9, but maybe I can go from 6 to 7. What action could I take that would get me just from 6 to 7? And so for me, like I said to you, doing the Facebook Lives where I'm walking around the block has really I just feel like it's got me moving in the mornings. And that's been a really good just a nice start to the day, and also weirdly also alleviated that kind of guilt about not being active. And so, yeah, just that small action, which literally takes me about 6 minutes, has not only physically helped just with energizing, but also mentally. I'm like, I don't know, I'm not as down on myself for sitting around doing nothing all day because I've taken that little bit of physical action. And
Absolutely.
so what will get you from, maybe just not all the way to where you'd like to be, but just one notch along the way to where you'd like to be. And I find that really useful exercise to do.
Yeah, very similar to what we did yesterday with what's in your control, and moving that along from, where you were at a 4 or a 5 up to what's the next step you can do to get to a 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So, and what I found for me is breaking that down into all those different areas. It became really clear when I was talking about where I am now. They are all interwoven and they are all interlinked, but sometimes you can see some clarity around, okay, well, I need to take this action first, and then that's going to have the return on investment for all of them by this particular action that I take. When I get down to that spiritual activity, that for me was around my gratitude practice. It was around putting in a practice around mindfulness for me, because my mind doesn't feel like it ever stops. So sometimes it's about what are the actions that I'm going to take to help slow down my mind, and to be grateful, and to take those moments, pleasures in the day. So, yeah.
So Selena said that she's grateful that, that's about spending time with the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's really part of that, isn't it? That she's focusing on that element or that aspect of life or that facet of life.
Yeah.
Has anyone else got anything to share about where they're going to focus their attention over the next few days in terms of these facets? Because I'm just talking to a lot of people in this space. Right now, there is that the human connection is a really important one for people. So the family relationships and friendships.
And community and citizenship.
I think that the personal development and growth industry has really flourished at the moment, like right now, like in the last couple of months, because a lot of people are stuck at home, and they've got an opportunity now to actually turn back and look at themselves. So because I was driving yesterday, I was listening to the radio, and someone was saying they'd pulled out their guitar for the first time in 50 years.
Wow.
And I had to go to buy a present at the art shop. And I said to her, "Oh, how's it going?" And she said, "We've been busier than ever." So all these people are getting involved in their creative pursuits and, beginning to kind of take back their personal life and their real priorities for their life, that maybe they put on hold while in the hustle and bustle.
And I think one of the challenges that we have with that is, how do we keep that when life returns to whatever this new version of normal looks like for us? How do we keep those things that we have buried for so long? How do we keep them back into the forefront of our mind and make time and have that conscious impact on that? So whilst this activity is a really, really powerful one that you really need some time to go and have a coffee or a cup of tea and sit down and work through, obviously when we're talking, there's probably going to be some standout things for you to go, oh, so we'd love you to share with us what your thoughts are around that. Is there one of those areas that particularly stands out for you in terms of an area that you want to move forward, or is an area that you need to move forward on, or is there something that's standing out for you in any of those particular in any of those particular areas where you sit there and say, if I could get this area of my life moving, that would actually have a really positive and a significant impact on my life. What about you, Elizabeth? What's the one that catches you?
Oh, right now, I think probably the career stuff is really important to me right now. So because I had planned to do some face-to-face workshops in April, and so, and I'd actually booked venues, and I hadn't booked the flights yet, but I'd booked the venues, and I'd arranged, with various people to, what I was going to be doing. And
including coming to Brisbane. I was very excited.
I was coming to Brisbane.
Yeah.
So disappointed.
I know, because it's much warmer here.
So I had all this stuff planned, and because I'd run a workshop in Melbourne in January, and it was really like well received, and I was excited about doing some more face-to-face, particularly because I mainly just work like in this space where I'm just sitting in my little studio having a conversation with someone on a computer. I was excited about, you know, that human connection thing again.
Sure.
And so just when that became clear that it wasn't going to be possible anymore, I had to really start thinking about, okay, so what does this look like for me now? How do I connect with people in a different way? And so that's part of the motivation for doing this project was because Kylee and I were interested in working together. But we decided to create this workshop so that two benefits: one, connect with our communities, and also just to be able to work in the same space as each other. So did I answer that? I think career, business, but also I guess it's really always about that human connection as well for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you just really clearly demonstrated is what we're talking about is what's the reframe. So you're talking about, this is my current situation. I had all this stuff planned, and I know exactly where I want to go, and it's about connection with people. So your plans got changed inadvertently, but you did a reframe and went, how can I get that connection anyway? By changing my actions. So you put those action steps in place. So that's really, really powerful.
And thank you for pointing that out.
I think it's really important that we actually capture those moments and we celebrate, because sometimes it is easy to get caught up in the, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I've just got to keep hustling. I've got to keep hustling. But in actual fact, you actually aligned, and that's probably why it's come together. And even though we've had our technical glitches, it's actually been really powerful for both of us, I believe, because it's aligned to what you already decided that you wanted to do, which is around that connection. So that's why it's been so powerful for me, and I know for you, because that's really important to both of us. So yeah. Some people have shared some stuff. So Pip said, I really love the concept of finding the beauty in every day, and inspired by the Front Steps project. Fantastic.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Deb Peter, also creative. Your own creative pursuits is a step towards supreme authority of your life. And creativity is a really interesting one, because I remember Brené Brown saying there's no such thing as creative people and non-creative people. They're just people that have used it, are using it, and people that aren't. Because I totally would have put myself in the non-creative person. And what I've realized is my creativity looks different. And when I action that by the things that I do, the loves that I have, I actually am creative. I'm quite visionary in terms of my ideas and concepts and things like that. But I wouldn't be creative in the traditional sense, like the artist in me is not there like it is for you.
Well, it's funny. People say to me, like, don't you miss, because I was an art teacher, they say, don't you miss that? Don't you miss the opportunity to teach art and to work with clay and stuff? And I'm like, I do. And I still have, I actually have a kiln. I have 2 kilns. But so I do miss doing that. And I set aside 3 days a month to work on creative projects so that I create that balance. And I need 3 days to kind of get into the headspace. But also, if I'm going to make stuff, especially with clay, I need time to fire it as well. So I need to allow myself sufficient time and space for that. But also I get to use it in a different way now. So where I used to go to a life drawing class and take clay with me. And while everyone else was drawing, I would sculpt the model. And I could do it for like a 20-minute, if a shorter pose was a bit hard, but 20 minutes was like perfect amount of time to get a nice little clay model. But what I've found now is that working as a coach, I actually am still creating something, but it's just in this space, in this creative space. And instead of creating a little model of a person, I'm actually helping someone sculpt a new life.
That's
and
fantastic.
So for me, that is just as exciting and just as fulfilling as making a thing, you know. So it's just different, but it's still that really creative space, and I love it.
Yeah, and empowering the people that we work with to empower themselves in that creative space. And that's been really, really powerful for me. Career. So Kate said, focus on health, wellbeing and recreation. I found a stay at home during this recent school holidays has given me permission to do things just for me. Absolutely. And Evangelia said career is most significant one, getting out of teaching into a new career, as does Emma. And even Selena, who's talking about what does her career look like as she's moving forward. And I think that's the other thing. We get stuck in what we feel like it needs to be. And this is creative license to say, well, what would I like it to be? And then work out those steps there. And we can both, Elizabeth and I can help you if you do get stuck in that space about unpacking what those action sequences might need to be to help you get from where you are to where you want to go.
So these questions, where am I now, where am I going, and how do I get there, are really powerful ways to help you just begin to get a handle on your current situation, what you want your life to look like, and then start to think about the steps. Obviously, this is blank. So, but these answers are within you. So even you might need some help to draw them out. But, you know, personally, I really strongly believe that we have the answers. And maybe even if you're working with someone else on this, or you have a buddy who's helping you think about these things, it's great to brainstorm the ideas, but in the end, it's going to be you being committed to taking that personal action, and you being committed to your own personal growth and development that is going to make the difference. So just that commitment to yourself is so crucial right now in order for you to even work out what is the next step. And sometimes it's just easier to go, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to just stay here. Like I interviewed someone the other day for the Get Out of Teaching podcast, and Candace Allen, she's a coach in the United States, had some really major life setbacks. Like it's a great episode if you want to listen to it. I think it's like about, I'm going to go with episode 12, I think it is, but she's just an amazing, amazing woman. And she talks about, she told me this story about there's a man goes to visit his neighbor, and the neighbor's dog is whining, and he says, oh, mate, why is your dog whining? You know, he's whimpering and whining and going, "Arr." And he said, oh, the neighbor said, he's sitting on a nail. And the friend says, he's sitting on a nail. Why is he sitting on a nail? And he says, well, it doesn't hurt enough for him to get off. And oh man, that story just resonated with me so much, because that's what I was like on my way out. I would moan and whinge about getting out of teaching, but I didn't do anything about it because it wasn't hurting enough, because there were so many things that were holding me there. And so once I realized actually this thing is like giving me an ulcer, so to a sort of metaphorical one, then I decided it was time to get off the nail. But it took me a long time to commit to taking that action, because I, you know, of the 100 reasons that were holding me back. And so, yeah, that was kind of part of my journey, was actually going, where do I want to be and how will I get there, and actually committing to doing something about it instead of just being aware of it, but not actually taking any action.
Yeah. And I think leading on from that, Emma has said, can you give me an example? Do you mean around this journey activity? Because I'll tell you, for me, so mine, it was a little bit of the nail, but part of the thing for me was I actually felt so overwhelmed with every aspect of my life that I was kind of frozen into inaction by the fact that every little step seemed too hard. But once I actually did a stock take and a hard conversation with myself about where am I actually now, what's happening in my life right now, and what did I envision my life to be? So where am I going? Where do I want that to go? And actually put it out loud and actually wrote it down. What became really clear was it's not the big moments, it's not the gigantic gestures, it's the little action steps that I could take that helped me get to where I wanted to be. So I always thought if I ever left teaching, that it would be this go straight into another business. And that certainly hasn't been the case. But there are little things that I can do each day. So, so there are little steps. And part of that was joining a group where I got to meet people like Elizabeth, where I got to have a safe and supportive sounding board to share my ideas with and get me into action, where I could go for me in my family and relationships, or wanted to empower my kids. So what was I doing? what was something, a little step that I did? So that was not watching the TV every night. It was around turning that TV off and actually spending some quality time with them. And excuse me 1 second, I'm just going to have a mini coughing fit.
Right, while she's having the mini, do you want to mute yourself, Kylee?
Sorry. Yes, apologies.
So Emma said, yes, please. She does want an example. So hopefully we've begun to address that for you, Emma. Can you be a bit more specific about what it is that you'd like us to address with that? So while we're waiting for Emma to get back to us, so, and when Kylee and I first met, she had all kinds of stuff going on in her life. And yet what I saw was her showing up every day, taking these small actions and keeping on pushing, even though it was really hard. And like, you know, here we are collaborating because I think we both saw something in each other that about that authenticity showing up every day that really resonated for each one of us, and so made us want to connect and work together.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's been a great gift actually for that to happen.
Absolutely. And one of the things, if I go into citizenship and community, part of that is surrounding yourself with people that can also help you to get where you want to go. So instead of going, I'm feeling alone, I'm feeling isolated, I don't know where to go, it was like looking for the community that could help you get to where you want to go. And it's the right community, because you'll have lots of different opportunities, but it's about finding the right one for you.
And Kylee, I'm sure you'll know where this quote comes from, but there's an idea that you should surround yourself with the 5 people who are going to kind of bring you up or make you better. So
yeah, absolutely.
Going out deliberately, creating a community of people who will support you and encourage you. I read something recently that was about like, why do we ask the people who we know are going to bring us down, or that we know are not our sort of champions? Why do we ask them what they think about our ideas? Why not go to one of your champions, someone who really does want what's best for you and who really does want to encourage you and inspire you and support you? Why not ask them for their opinion on what you're doing?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
In the background here, who's invisible, my daughter's here helping us just with the technical side, making sure everything goes right, and she's also responding to some of the comments because she is really inspired and excited by what I'm doing here. And my youngest daughter said to me, I think you found your calling. And like, why, so why hang around people who aren't going to make you feel like you're actually onto something? And my neighbors always says to me, I can't believe how much action you take. And I'm like, okay, because what I see is like, oh, I haven't done, the 100 things on my list. But what they see is, oh, wow, look, she's trying something new again and seeing if it works. And so, yeah, I think it's really important to find those champions, find those cheerleaders, and have them be there in your life. And even if it means, paying a mentor or paying a coach to support you in that way, I think it's really important.
I often talk about the circle of influence. So who's in your inner circle? Who are the people's opinions that you value most? And then when somebody else, a naysayer or someone says something quite critical of you, are they in that inner circle? And if they're out here, why are you letting them guide and influence your decision making when they're actually not the people that are in your inner circle? Emma just wrote up, so I want to get out of teaching and I'm currently unemployed. I want to move into another career that still uses the skills I have. So part of what I would do in this journey activity, Emma, because I was where you were, one of the things that I wanted to do is transition out of education, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I took all the bits of the job that I liked. So for me, it was about where am I now, was around what am I doing and what skills do I currently have, and where, and then taking that to kind of guide where I wanted to go. So that would be in your career and business stuff, is what are the skills that you currently have in your personal development? Where are you sitting now? What strengths do you have? Yeah. We're very good at being very self-critical about what we don't have, but we actually have to take stock and acknowledge what we do have that will value add into this space. So I would be looking in all those different areas about what you do have, what your strengths are, and what you currently possess, and where do you think you might like to go in those particular areas. And if you don't have the skills to get to that particular area, then maybe that's the action step. What do you need to do to take the steps to get to where you want to go?
And I just add to that too, if you're looking to change career, even if it's not teaching but something else, actually think about, like, what are the characteristics or the qualities of the work that you do want. And so often when I talk to my get out of teaching clients or that group in the Get Out of Teaching Facebook group, the things they say is they want autonomy, they want respect, and they want to be able to use their creativity. They're like the sort of triad of a happy work life. And often if you do a little audit, you'll find that you're missing that autonomy or agency in the workplace, and the respect from your colleagues or from the other stakeholders. And often because we're either dictated about the curriculum that we have to teach, or that just the environment is so overwhelming or crushing, you don't get to think expansively, you don't get to think creatively. And they are the biggest three motivators for people to actually leave. But then you need to make sure you're not jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. So start looking for and considering work options and possibilities, or maybe even creating something for yourself that allows you to fulfill those needs.
Absolutely. And I think, we often talk about, how do you want to show up in the workplace? So what are the, I know for me, when I'm in a situation where I'm not being able to live true to my values and who I am, I don't always, when I start to have to act outside of that, or I feel like I'm having to act outside of that, some of the behaviors that don't sit well with me. So how do you want to show up? If you want to change your career, then what behaviors do you want to have, and what characteristics do you want to have and show up, and make sure that whatever you're going into enables you to live that kind of life. Because otherwise, like Elizabeth said, you're going from the frying pan into the fire, and you won't be happy in that place as well. This is an opportunity really to just take stock of where you are, slow down, have a think about where you want to go, and then look at those little actionable steps that you can take to help you get where you're going.
All right, so we are almost out of time, Kylie.
Yeah, I know. That's fantastic. And you've been here for the whole day. Yay! That's very exciting. It's been great to have you here. I don't quite look as deer in the headlights as probably as I did yesterday, so that's been really exciting.
It's fine.
And we've had so much action today. So we've talked about lots of different activities, and they all link to going back to what, if we go back to what we talked about yesterday, is these things are actually in your control. And this is about taking stock of what's in your control. The actionable steps you take are in your control, but sometimes you've got to figure out where you are and where you're going to even figure out what they need to be. So we're really excited now that we've got you out of those trenches and we're moving you towards the sun. We're really, really looking forward to tomorrow, when we can start to see you bloom in all your glory.
So at tomorrow's session, we're hoping that by the end of that session, you'll have some real clarity and direction about what's next for you. So take this sheet and take some time today. Maybe, I reckon that's about at least a 20-minute job, at least, maybe an hour, to fill in that sheet and just start to take stock. And one thing that you might find helpful is to kind of give yourself a rating from 1 to 10. How successful am I at this element or aspect of my life compared to where I want to be, and is it, how important is it to me? And so give them a rating, and then say if there's a big gap between success and importance, then that might be an area to really focus on.
Yeah. And if you do find, if you look at that activity and you are feeling so stuck at the moment that looking at that activity goes, oh my gosh, that's so overwhelming, just pick one area today. Each day, just pick one area and start looking at that, because by the end of the week, you will have actually mapped all of those areas out. So if you're finding, for me, it was great because I would go between the two, and I'd have one thought that'd lead me to the next one and lead me to the next one. But if that's not how your brain works, then you have a look at that sheet and just feel a bit overwhelmed at the moment because you are quite stuck, just take one of those areas today and focus on that.
Yeah. All right. We are going to love you and leave you. Is there anything else you want to wind up with, Kylie?
Yep. So I wanted to finish off because as you can see, I'm the person that loves the quotes. I get so much inspiration by reading about inspiring people and thought leaders, and often I'll be reading different things, and Elizabeth gets messages at all hours. I'm like, what about this one? What about this one? Because I just love, and they all resonate for me. So that's why I wanted to share them with you, and that's why we've made them up into posters that you can purchase. Because for me, it's just the reading. It helps me do that reframe. Okay, yep, okay, I'm having a negative thought. Oh, I've just read that, and that helps me reframe back into getting me back on track. So the quote, and I haven't been able to find the author of this, so if you know it, please feel free to send it through. But it says, even on the darkest days, I will stand tall and find the sunlight. And so I love that, even on, when you're feeling a little bit unstuck, hopefully by doing these activities and by doing these processes that we're talking about and getting unstuck, it can help you start to stand tall and know that you will find the sunlight, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment.
All right, friends, we're going to leave it there, and we will see you again, same time, same channel tomorrow morning.
Bye. See you later. Thanks for joining us.